If a woman ignores you, most men make the same fatal mistake. They chase, they double text, they call, they beg for attention. But Machiavelli understood something men today have forgotten. Power is never begged for, it's taken. So when she goes silent, that's not your loss. That's your battlefield. Her silence isn't random, it's deliberate. She's measuring you. Will you break down without her attention or stand unshaken? Machiavelli once said, "The one who controls the story controls the power." And right now she's trying to write your story. The story of a man desperate for her. But here's the truth. Not all silences mean the same thing. Some are tests, some are shields, and some are final goodbyes. I'm going to break down the three types of silence, what each one really means, and how you can respond like a Machiavellian man who never loses power. The first silence, the test. The first kind of silence is the test silence. And let me tell you, this one traps more men than anything else. It's not total disappearance. She doesn't block you. She doesn't ghost you entirely. In fact, she's still watching your every move. She views your stories. She lurks on your profile. Maybe she drops a like here and there. But when it comes to your messages, nothing. And here's the mistake most men make. They think, oh, she's busy. Maybe she didn't see it. Wrong. She saw it. She's waiting. This silence is not about distraction. It's a calculated move. She's holding back her attention to see how desperate you are for it. Will you lose control and chase her harder? Will you double text or triple text? Call her, then delete the call, then call again. Because the moment you do, you failed the test. Machiavelli would call this a shift of power. On the battlefield, a clever general doesn't always strike first. Sometimes he lets the enemy show his desperation. He withholds his army, his weapons, his firepower, to see if the opponent will reveal weakness. That's exactly what she's doing. She wants to see if your confidence is real, or just an act that crumbles when she withholds her approval. Here's the brutal truth. The test silence has nothing to do with her. It's not about whether she likes you or not. It's about you, your discipline, your emotional control, your ability to stand firm even when validation is withheld. Most men fail because they've built their sense of worth on her response. When she doesn't reply, they feel empty, powerless, forgotten. So they try to fix it by chasing harder, not realizing that the act of chasing proves she owns their emotions. But the Machiavellian man? He does the opposite. He sees the test silence for what it is, a game of control, and he refuses to play. He mirrors her absence with calm indifference. If she waits 4 hours, he waits 4 hours. If she withholds, he withholds. And in that moment, the game backfires on her. Because instead of feeding off his desperation, she's forced to face her own uncertainty. Why isn't he chasing me? Why isn't he breaking? Understand this. The test silence is not about winning her back. It's about proving to yourself that you don't collapse when validation is taken away. It's about building the kind of strength that makes her, or any woman, realize you are not easily moved, not easily controlled, not easily broken. That is the first silence. And if you master it, you've already separated yourself from 90% of men. The second silence, the shield. Not every silence is about you. Sometimes her silence has nothing to do with games, tests, or rejection. Sometimes it's a shield. This is the silence of withdrawal. She disappears from everyone, not just you. She stops posting, stops responding, pulls back into her own world. And you're left staring at your phone, wondering, did I do something wrong? Did I lose her? But here's the truth. This silence isn't a mirror of your value. It's a reflection of her battles. Life hits people in ways you don't see. Stress, family drama, insecurities, failures, storms you're not even aware of. And when she retreats into that storm, she uses silence as her armor. Not to hurt you, but to protect herself. Most men can't handle this. They take it personally. They assume they're being ignored, replaced, or tested. So they chase. They pressure. They demand attention at the very moment she needs space. And in doing so, they suffocate her and destroy the attraction that was there in the first place. The Machiavellian man, He sees deeper. He knows when silence is not manipulation, but self-preservation. And instead of reacting with panic, he reacts with strength, by holding his ground, by continuing his mission, by not collapsing just because someone else is facing their own storm. Think of it like this. A wise general doesn't rush his army into a battlefield blinded by fog. He waits until the air clears, until he can see the terrain for what it is. That's how you must handle the shield silence. Don't barge in. Don't demand clarity. Don't project weakness by making it all about you. Instead, you use this time as fuel. While she's silent, you keep building your empire, your body, your mind, your mission. So when she does emerge from her storm, she sees a man who didn't collapse without her. She sees a man steady, composed, and unshaken. And that steadiness becomes irresistible. Here's the lesson. The shield silence teaches you to master your ego, to stop assuming that every silence is an attack on your worth, because the man who cannot detach his identity from a woman's attention is already defeated. But the man who remains grounded, even when her world collapses, that man becomes a fortress. And women are drawn to fortresses, not to beggars. That is the second silence. Not a game, not a rejection, a shield. And if you treat it with wisdom instead of weakness, you elevate yourself above 95% of men. The third silence, the goodbye. The hardest silence to accept is the silence of rejection. This is not a test, not a shield. It's the end. You'll know it by its tone. The dry replies, the constant excuses, the energy that feels cold, heavy, lifeless. Every word she gives you feels like she's forcing it, and eventually she stops giving words altogether. Most men can't handle this. They refuse to believe what's right in front of them, so they cling, they beg, they fight to resurrect something that's already dead. But the more they cling, the weaker they look, and the less she respects them. Machiavelli would call this fighting a lost war. A wise general knows when the battlefield is no longer worth blood, men, or time. He withdraws, not out of weakness, but out of strategy, because the resources he wastes on a dead battle could build a new empire elsewhere. That's what you must understand here. The rejection silence is her way of saying, there is no future here. She may not have the courage to say it directly, but her silence is the answer you don't want to face. And if you're a man of discipline, you don't argue with that. You don't chase what's running from you. You don't pour energy into a well that has no water. You step back, reclaim your power, and redirect it toward yourself. Because here's the brutal truth. The moment you stop begging for her attention, you begin to rebuild your respect. And the man who can walk away from rejection with calm indifference, that man is untouchable. Understand this. The rejection silence is not a punishment. It's information. It tells you without words that she is not the one. And in that clarity, you are free. Free to stop bleeding for someone who doesn't value you. Free to invest your energy into yourself and into women who see your worth without games. That is the third silence. The silence of goodbye. The silence most men fear. But the silence that, once embraced, makes you unstoppable. The return test. And here's the part almost every man fails. The return, because she will come back. After weeks of silence, she'll send a simple, "Hey, how are you?" as if nothing happened. Most men cave instantly. They rush back. They give her all the power she thought she lost. And just like that, they're back at square one. If you want to win, you must hold the same frame you held during her absence. Don't drop your priorities. Don't break your discipline. She must feel she's re-entering your world. Not that you've been waiting at her door. But sometimes silence isn't a test. It's manipulation. She vanishes for days, drops crumbs of attention, then disappears again. This isn't attraction, it's control. And Machiavelli would say, some battles aren't worth fighting. That's when you use the nuclear option. Complete withdrawal, delete, detach, disappear. Not because you're weak, but because her game has no prize. When you refuse to play, she loses her only weapon. Her silence doesn't define you. It defines her. The man who doesn't chase, The man who keeps building wins twice. He filters out manipulators and attracts women who respect strength. So if she ignores you, don't collapse, don't chase. Act like Machiavelli would, with indifference, discipline, and unshakable power.